Hello there, people of the internet. So today is probably going to be kind of a controversial topic, but I still feel like it's something that I should talk about. So, SHTF situation, and it's an SHTF situation that is going to last. It is one of those situations where, hey, you're not getting resupplied. What you have is what you have, and that's all. That's it. That's everything you have in stock. So, first I'm going to say, you definitely want to have a good stockpile of what it is that you have, and you want up-to-date technology with what you're using to defend yourself. Like if you are going up against an actual, enemy force, and they have self-loading rifles, you absolutely want something like that. You definitely want yourself some kind of self-loading rifle to be able to defend yourself against these people. But other than your defensive firearm, which you can use for survival and whatnot in, if you were living in the woods, like in an area like I'm at, if you were using your defensive rifle as your survival rifle, eventually you would run out of ammunition. Eventually that resource would dry up. Eventually you're going to get to the point to where you cannot use this rifle anymore. You could go out and try and scavenge ammunition, but there's always risks with that, and I mean, there's a good chance that you're not going to come back alive, especially if you're in a situation where it's SHTF and you're using this thing to take out people that are trying to get close to you. Like, that's a bad situation, and you don't want to have to rely on what you can find. Like, that's just not a good place to be. So I actually have a really, really good recommendation, and if you've been looking for an excuse for one of these, then this is a good excuse to go out and buy yourself one. I always recommend that we have a helicopter overhead making a lot of noise. Okay, helicopter's gone. I always recommend that every single American in their household has at least this, and even the people that are against firearms will be fine with it. I recommend that they have some sort of muzzle loading firearm that takes black powder. Got me some dust on my stock here. I guess I haven't used this thing in a little while. But some kind of muzzle loading firearm, some sort of black powder firearm. And the reason why I'm advocating muzzle loading is because of this. If you have yourself a firearm that is like either a bolt action or a breech loader or something that will take black powder, and the reason why I'm going with black powder is because black powder is incredibly easy to make. If you know how to make it, then you can literally make it indefinitely, depending on where it is that you're at. Like if you can urinate, have access to any kind of groundwater, and can make a fire, you can make black powder. But if you have a system like this is a 4570 trapdoor, and this is just an empty case. Let's say this was a black powder round that I loaded because I'm living on the frontier, and you fire it, bang, bang, and you go to reload. Lo and behold, yes, you can reuse that brass case, but eventually you're going to get to the point to where you run out of primers. Eventually that brass case is going to wear out. Eventually something's going to happen to where you cannot reload this ammunition, and then you pretty much just have yourself a big stick here. I guess you could use this as like a beating device, but that's about it. If you have yourself a lever action, then you could run this with black powder, but hey, lo and behold, you will eventually run out of primers. You will eventually get to the point to where that brass is no longer functional. But if you have yourself a muzzle loader, guess what? You can use this thing indefinitely. Just because there's no brass casing that you have to worry about, you could literally load this with black powder and shoot an unlimited amount of rounds, dude. Especially if you wash it out and keep it clean and stop it from corroding. You could literally use this thing indefinitely. And if you can make your own powder using whatever resources that you have around you, I recommend that you do some research on how to gather the necessary resources to make said powder, because it's very good information. No, I'm not going to get into that here because YouTube, anti-gun. So if you can make your black powder, and you can, if you have yourself a bullet mold and can make your actual own projectiles, then hey, hats off to you. But since this does not take an actual cartridge, you could stuff basically whatever you want down this barrel. If you pour, although this is a rifled barrel, if you pour powder down the barrel and then you put a wad down the barrel, you can stuff literally whatever you want on top of that. I would not recommend it because a lot of different things can actually end up destroying your rifling. I would recommend getting yourself a mold. This way you can basically mold your own ammunition, your own actual bullets indefinitely using whatever metal it is that you have access to. I recommend a soft metal, but if it's SHTF, it's SHTF, and you got to use whatever it is that you have. But in the event that you don't have bullets, I would, like I said, this will damage your rifling if you do this too much, but I would load whatever it is that you can find, whether or not it's like BBs from a BB gun, or like nails, or little screws, or like nuts for nuts and bolts, or like whatever it is that you can manage to get your hands on, maybe some rocks. Like I said, will damage the rifling, but it's better than having absolutely nothing. Now, if you have yourself one of these and say it's already worn out and the rifling is already damaged, then hey, that would make a fantastic little improvised black powder shotgun, especially if you have yourself like a long file or something like that, and you can actually file out the rifling. Then that right there will make it to where, well, anyone who's ever fired a shotgun with rifling in it knows that the rifling will throw your shot one way or the other. So you just got to kind of learn where that firearm will throw that shot just through practice and whatnot. But if you take out the rifling, then you won't have to worry about that. Or if you already have yourself a designated black powder shotgun, then by all means, that would be a good way to go. But if you can save the rifling, make your own bullets, this right here will be accurate out far enough to be able to take whatever game it is that you're looking to take. A lot of your modern muzzle-loading firearms are capable of handling some pretty substantial pressures, so you could load these quite significantly and be able to take out, hell, even large game with something like this. I would not use this to fight for my life against somebody who is armed with modern equipment. That is where the modern self-loading intermediate caliber rifle comes in. But if you are living on the frontier and you don't have unlimited ammunition for that, you literally can have unlimited ammunition for something like this. Now, if you're sitting in your chair and you're thinking, what about percussion caps? You don't have unlimited of those. You'll need resupply for that. No, you won't. If you run out of percussion caps, I would not recommend doing this, but you absolutely can do it. But for freaking liability reasons, I'm going to say I do not recommend doing this. But in the event of an emergency situation, you don't need a percussion cap to fire this thing. Think about how matchlocks and whatnot were fired way back in the day. You know what, never mind. But my recommendation, I would remove this nipple, and I would just sprinkle in a little bit of gunpowder, you know, black powder, directly into our little nipple hole right here. And then you hold this just like this, and rather than pull the trigger, grab yourself a match or a Bic lighter or something like that, and just touch it, and boosh. Not exactly the most ideal situation, but that's literally how black powder firearms worked before the percussion cap. I mean, if you have a flintlock, you could just find yourself more flint whenever your flint runs out. That would be the ideal situation. But if you don't have that, then hey, you're basically turning your percussion cap into a matchlock by, you know, using a lighter or a match or something like that. And this right here essentially becomes your flash pan. But all you would do, hold your rifle, grab your lighter, and just touch it. Just light right there, and you would fire that thing. So, I mean, you don't necessarily need a lighter or anything like that. If you just have a stick from a fire that's got some red embers on it, just take and touch. As long as you have access to that, like you could literally just run these things literally indefinitely. You can make your own ammo and you can set it off. This would make just the best, absolute best SHTF survival rifle. Not a defensive rifle, survival rifle. This way you can save your intermediate cartridge ammunition for actually defending yourself. Like, let's say I have this group of bandits coming up, right? And I don't want to fight them with a freaking muzzle loader because they have ARs. So I just grab my AK and bam, they've all been taken out. And now, make sure that's clear, now I don't have to use the rest of my very limited AK supply for taking out other things, like after those guys have been taken out. Yes, I can go grab their ammunition and whatnot and add that to my defensive loads, but let's say I'm out there, you know, let's say I'm back at home and I'm like, oh, would you look at that? A fucking 12-point buck hanging out right over there. Let's go ahead and use what I have unlimited ammunition for right here to take that bastard out. Bang! And look at that, I wasted literally nothing here because I can make more of this stuff to get myself enough food to feed me for a week. Now, like I said, this is an opinionated video, and I'm sure that it's going to be controversial, and there's probably going to be some people who are like, absolutely not, terrible idea, don't do anything that this guy says, and that's fine, I always get things like that. But you can literally run this indefinitely in the field, especially if you know how to produce things to make this rifle run. You cannot do that with a rifle like this. You can reload these, I mean, you can load them with black powder and whatnot, but eventually those cases are going to wear out. Eventually you're going to run out of primers. Eventually you will not be able to run that rifle, versus this thing right here, as long as you maintain it, it will run literally indefinitely, especially if you can make your own stuff. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are down below. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about this one, because it's a very interesting concept, and I bet it's going to get controversial. Rather than go in the comments and yell at me, go read through other people's comments and see what other people are saying. You'd be amazed at how many good ideas you get through the comments section. I know I'm amazed at how many good ideas I get through the comments section. So keep an open mind. I mean, I'm not saying use this as your primary. I'm saying use it for survival. That is actually a really, really good idea. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Description down below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. If you want to help out with this stuff, because this stuff is absolutely not cheap, like these arms and this equipment, it costs money. And that money doesn't just come from nowhere, it comes from my own pocket. And if you want to help out, I do have Utreon and Patreon. Go ahead and go check those out. So I'm not dealing with, you know, bags of ammunition like this and having to, you know, only use a handful of rounds per video because I can't afford much else. So go ahead and check all that out. Links in the description. Besides that, I actually have another video that I want to make, and I'm running out of time to do it. So I'm going to go do that. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. And like I said, let me know what y'all's thoughts are down below. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.